Okay, cut the whole thing about the lions. Part of me thinks that Stephenie Meyer is a little too big for her britches to be claiming that. I clocked that immediately. How did nobody reading or writing this clock that? They're toxic men, and I get that they're young. I mean, Edward's 109. Get out of here. Get out of here. I can't. Another italics. Oh my god, I just lost my whole wing. Oh well. Hi. First, let's get some commotion for the shirt. Okay. Yes, there's already cat hair on it. What did you expect? I have a really fun idea for me. When I was younger, I remember reading the Twilight series. I mean, who doesn't remember reading the Twilight series? Is there anybody here who hasn't read the Twilight series or who didn't when they were 13 years old? Because that was a time, that was a moment in time. And I have not read the Twilight series since Breaking Dawn came out. I mean, I don't even think I reread it before Breaking Dawn came out. So I have not even picked up the books in over a decade. I would really like to see how they hold up. I mean, I know that when I read it as a teenager, I did not think it was the greatest writing, but I loved the story. I was there for the characters. And now that I'm more adult, I don't know, it would be interesting to see how I like it. If I still like it. I was able to download the collection on my Kindle, so it's got all 4 books right here. It's super long. Let's see if it even has like page numbers. Yeah, there's not even page numbers on it. That's how long it is. I guess it just goes into each book, then the pages will separate. I'm not for sure. I also remembered that I have all of the Twilight movies on Blu-ray. This is Twilight Forever, the complete saga. I kind of hate how it opens like this. So like if you pick it up off your shelf, it falls off like that. It's not the best packaging, but it has all of the movies in it. And you know what, maybe it'd be fun to read all the books. Like maybe I'll read Twilight and then I'll watch Twilight, and then I'll read New Moon and then I'll watch New Moon, and you guys can just come along with me and listen to my thoughts about it. And I don't know, maybe it'll be fun. I know the movies are kind of an annual thing, especially once it starts getting colder and spring is starting. I mean, we're still in February. I'm hoping to finish the whole Twilight saga within a week, hopefully shorter than a week, but... You wanna come in? Yeah, you can come in. Come here, you wanna say hi to the camera? Come here. Say hi, Pancake. Say hi, look, you're right there. Oh, it's bright. She said it's too bright. And I know that these are typically more like autumny or like wintry vibes, but I don't know. I've just been really wanting to read it, and I had the whole Twilight series on my February TBR. But yeah, I love to watch trashy TV. I love to read while I'm watching trashy TV too, so I can like focus on 2 things at once that I want to get done. And a new season of Love is Blind just dropped randomly. I swear we just had season 5 like 3 months ago, but I mean, that's the great thing about trash TV, is that there's so much trash in this world that there will always be content for me, thankfully. So yeah, I think I'm gonna sit down and start the season and start Twilight. I'm really excited. Yes, this is hours later and I am wearing a different piece of Taylor Swift merch. That's very normal for me actually. So it's like 1 in the morning. I'm like a third of the way through Twilight. We took a break to go see Perfect Days in theaters and that was really good movie, good break. But I think I'm gonna stop here and I'll catch you guys up tomorrow. Good night. We did it, boys. Jump scare. Hi! So it's the end of the day and I have to let this mask set for 20 to 25 minutes. I am so far with a Twilight update for you guys. I am on chapter 18 out of chapter 24. It's like 12:30 a.m. I think. I've figured out that I have about 80 minutes left in Twilight. So let's see how much I can read. Hopefully a chapter or two in the next 20 minutes while this dries, and then I will be back to update for the end of the first day of reading Twilight, and I will have this off, so next clip, don't worry. Hi, back again. Okay, so it is now 1:30 in the morning. I'm done with my skincare. I'm about to go to bed, but I just thought I'd give you guys like a little 24-hour update. So today I had worked for 10 days straight, and today was my first day off, and it was so great. I got so much done. I went to go see Out of Darkness in theaters at 11 in the morning, and then I came home and I read for several hours. I made really good progress in Twilight. I went grocery shopping. I watched 2 more movies. I spent quality time with my loved ones. It was a great day. It was really a great day, and I'm so excited to go to bed. But just to give you guys a little update, so I made it to chapter 22. I have 3 chapters left, including the prologue. Wait, is it prologue or afterward? Epilogue. Epilogue. I read books. Okay, yeah, so I'll probably finish that early in the morning. I do work in the morning, but I'm hoping to wake up early and just finish it off, be done with it, and then I'll watch Twilight tomorrow. I'm super excited for that. But yeah, that's just my little update. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I hope you guys have a good night. Hi! So I finished Twilight. Woo! Yeah, so I finished Twilight. I read a majority of yesterday. I had the day off, like I said, and then I had like 3 chapters left when I woke up this morning, and I woke up early and I just finished them before I started work. And yeah, I've got some thoughts. Okay, so thought number 1, this was good. I can't believe I'm saying that. I can't believe I'm admitting that, because I always thought that the books were good as a kid. Like, I enjoyed it. I was a teenager and they were fun. But then I thought as I got older, these aren't good. Like, they're not well written and I don't like the characters, and there's more problems that I had with it. But on this reread, y'all, I was sold. Okay, tell me why I was giggling yesterday. Tell me why I was laying in bed reading this book and giggling at Edward and Bella. I was even giggling at Jacob. Like, it was so cute. I was sold. Okay, like I was resold on this series, and I'm so glad that I'm rereading it. It's so weird because I would critique Stephenie Meyer's writing as a kid. I thought that it was not good writing. I guess, bear with me, because I took 2 English classes in college. Like, I don't know all the terms. I don't know everything that I'm trying to describe when it comes to writing and the English language and writing in English. But maybe it's her prose or something. I don't know what it was, but her writing to me, I always felt was not good because I had read better writing, I guess. But something about it, I don't know. I really, really liked being in Bella's head. I really liked the first person narration. I liked how down she was. She was like always really negative. You know, like these people are coming up to her. She's coming to this new school, and I get it. She doesn't want to be there, but she's coming to this new school and people are like so eager to be nice to her, and they kind of treat her like a shiny new toy, you know, and she's just like nice to them. Like her speech is nice, but in her head, she's being mean. And I don't know, I liked it. I liked it a little bit. One thing that surprised me that I must have forgotten is how rude Edward is. Like, he's kind of a dick to her sometimes. And I get it because he doesn't want to be with her because he's not good for her. He's dangerous for her. So he's like quick to, I don't know, like be frustrated with her or like give a sigh. He's just like not super willing to accommodate to her, but he's determined to keep her safe in every situation. Like, he's following her, but then like when she starts asking him questions, he's gonna get frustrated and annoyed with her. And it's like, bro, like, you put yourself in the position, like, you were there and now she's gonna ask questions. I don't know what you expected. I didn't remember him being that rude to her. Like, sometimes some of the things he would say, I'd be like, oh, I would not put up with that. I would just walk away. I highlighted a few of my favorite quotes, okay? So this is in the very beginning. She's like getting out of her truck to go into school, and she's like, you know, like hyping herself up, being like, it's gonna be fine. And she goes, I can do this. I lied to myself feebly. No one was gonna bite me. Like she knew what she was doing when she wrote that. She knew. And it's cute. Another thing, okay, like this, when I read this, relatable, so relatable to me. It talks about how the gym teacher, she has to be in gym, and the gym teacher gave her a uniform. She goes, at home, only 2 years of PE were required. Here, PE was mandatory all 4 years. Forks was literally my personal hell on earth. And I felt that. And one interesting thing, I told you guys how Bella would be nice to people on the surface, but in her mind, she would be rude. One way that was very apparent to me is how the writing was describing everyone around her, except for the colons. They are the exception. Okay, I understand that. But everyone who came up to her, the description wasn't, she was cute with soft brown hair. Oh, I just described myself. It wouldn't be like she had a cute face with soft blonde hair. It would be like she had bad skin and braces, you know, or he had greasy hair and pimples on his chin. Like, nobody ever was nice. No one ever looked nice. She had no nice descriptions of anyone. And I wonder if that was just to like further the distinction between like Forks humans from Forks are not great, and then the Cullens are perfect and beautiful and none of them have any flaws. Like, if that's the case, I don't think that it was necessary. I don't think that it was necessary for literally every single person in this high school to have, for their issue to be presented, for their issue to be talked about. Like, there was never any positive descriptions of anyone. And that's like so mean girl, that's so pick me. I didn't like it. And not even just like, oh, she had bad skin or her hair was gross. I highlighted this. She's talking to Lauren, who's just like one of the girls that's part of the friend group. And they're talking about Jacob. I don't know. They're just like shooting the shit, okay? And Lauren goes, how nice. She didn't sound like she thought it was nice at all. And her pale, fishy eyes narrowed. Like, it can never be like her glass blue eyes narrowed, you know, or anything like that. She's got fishy eyes, you know. It's just like never any nice descriptions about people. And it's interesting that Stephenie Meyer decided to take that route. And I get that it was a different time. Like, I definitely feel like in the last 5 years, even, the way that we describe people and the way that we talk about people has just changed completely for the better, definitely. But it's interesting that she took that route. So my biggest critique with Stephenie Meyer and her writing, and I'm really excited to see how the rest of the books go, because I remember how Breaking Dawn ends, and rereading Twilight, I obviously remember how Twilight ends, but New Moon and Eclipse, I don't remember the full endings of those. New Moon a little bit, but Eclipse, like, I don't even remember that book at all, much less the movie. Stephenie Meyer cannot write a climax. She can write a rising action, but she cannot write the tip of the iceberg. This is why she did first person narrative, I'm sure, because first person narrative, if the first person is passed out, like, obviously they don't know what just happened. And so, like, in this one, spoilers, but honestly, if you don't know the story of Twilight, like, why are you watching this? I mean, you're welcome to watch this, but, like, if you're gonna be mad that it's gonna be spoiled, like, girl, it's been out forever, and it was a phenomenon. If you don't know the end of this, and don't get mad at me for spoiling it for you, okay? As we know, at the end of this book, James tricks Bella, and she thinks that she's going to Phoenix to save her mom, but he tricks her into a secluded location away from all the vampires, or away from the Cullen family, and he bites her. Well, he breaks her leg and then he bites her. And in the book, it's just like she passes out from the pain, and then she sees Edward, an angel comes, and it's Edward, okay? And she can hear the conversation that he's having with Carlisle about how she's been bitten and he needs to suck out the venom. And he's like, I don't know if I'll be able to stop. And Carlisle's like, you'll have to stop. Like, you can do it. Like, let this make you grow and become better. You know, like, she's there to hear the conversation, but she's not there to see the fight, because who is it? Emmett and Jasper totally tear up James and burn him, catch him on fire. They burn the ballet studio down that he has taken her to, basically. And we never see any of that. It's not until we get to the hospital scene, the next chapter, where Edward explains how Jasper and Emmett took care of it. And then the mom walks in and she's like, oh my gosh, did you hear that the ballet studio burnt down that you used to go to? And like, that's how we as the reader figure out what had happened. So like, as a reader, it's very boring at the end. It's very okay. I mean, it felt like, you know, and I get that the romance between them is the whole point of the story, but it does get points like severely taken off for not having any climax. Like there's no, it's not fun. It's not exciting. There's no adventure. And I know she does the same thing in Breaking Dawn, and it's just so disappointing. It's just, it sucks that she didn't try to get better at that. Like, it sucks that nobody told her after she wrote Twilight, hey girl, like, go take some classes. Hey girl, like, I've got this person here who will help you become a better writer. Like, everyone on her team seemed to be just a bunch of yes men who let her do whatever she wanted. And I don't think that that's smart. I think that once you find out your groove in the field that you want to work in, there's only good things that will happen if you try to improve upon them. So yeah, it's goofy. I don't like that there's no climax here. I mean, that doesn't mean that I didn't like the story, because I definitely, the whole beginning until they have the baseball game, basically, I loved it. I had such a fun time reading this. I had so much fun reading about Edward and like his overprotectiveness, and Bella and her negativity. Like, I really just related to it a little bit more. And I also, it's kind of weird because she's so ready to give up her life for him, and I know like she's down bad. Like, I know how the rest of the series goes, and I know like her whole plan is just to be with him the whole time. I can't say it's my favorite trope, but for some reason it works for me. I think that the writing in this book is good for that. It really, really works for me in the sense that she is so down bad for him. Okay, another thought that I had. So at the end of the book in the Kindle, there's the Twilight discussion questions. The last discussion question talks about, Stephenie Meyer has noted that each of her novels in the Twilight saga plays homage to other literary classics. For Twilight, she said Pride and Prejudice was the key inspiration. Part of me thinks that Stephenie Meyer is a little too big for her britches to be claiming that, okay? Definitely I see how there's pride in the book, because Bella is a very prideful person. She definitely, you know, if someone's beneath her, she's gonna think that they're beneath her. Prejudice, I feel like prejudice starts to happen in the next book once the werewolves become introduced. Like, I feel like there's a lot more prejudice in the next one. But I mean, to claim that this pays homage to Pride and Prejudice, arguably the best literary romantic comedy of all time, it makes me cringe a little bit. Yeah. I don't think I agree with that, Stephenie Meyer. I don't think that I agree with that at all. Yeah. I definitely had a fun time reading this, and I'm gonna really enjoy the next books, I hope. But I know that when I watch Twilight again, I'm gonna watch it with the commentary this time, because I've never watched it with the commentary, and that'll be fun. I know that Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart loved being in these films, so I'm excited to see how the commentary goes, and I'm excited to get a little more insight on how the film was made and if there's anything that they have to say about the book. I will say though, honestly, I can tell that they read this book before production started. You know, I think that Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart are both by themselves just amazing actors. Really like get into their character and perform and do a good job of it. Yeah, I don't know, I'm excited to rewatch it. So we'll see what else I have to say once that happens. Hopefully I'll watch it today. And I'll see you guys next time. Hi, Editing Emma here. I forgot to say, he gaslights the fuck out of her. Like, and I remember this in the last rewatch that I saw of the movie. He just would gaslight her to oblivion, and he does it so much in the book too. Like I said, I get it. He's got to do what he's got to do to keep his family safe and his kind safe and everything. But it was just funny to see. And another thing, I have never been one to enjoy the trope of the girl falling first. I always enjoy it more when the boy falls first. But for some reason, being in Bella's head and then like just being part of her obsession with him really, really worked for me. Like, I really enjoyed that she fell first and that we just have so much to go off of with her infatuation with him. And it makes me really excited to read, is it called Midnight Sun? It's the Twilight book that's from his perspective. I don't know if it'll change things for me or if it'll maybe make me like appreciate his side of the story more, because I already like his side of the story and I really like Bella's side of the story. So I'm like interested to see how Midnight Sun will hold up, but I don't need it. Like I'm good with Bella falling first and being so down bad for him. Okay, so like I said before, it just slides open like this. And we'll move that over there. And then I have it set to open up under the Breaking Dawn Part 1 picture because I think that that one is so pretty. You can also like have it to this one if you're more of a Jacob fan, but it couldn't be me. And then it just opens. Oh, there's picture from Breaking Dawn Part 2, picture from New Moon. Oh, who's she gonna choose? Who knows? Oh, there's the Twilight one. Oh my gosh, I don't have enough space for it. Okay, so it opens up like that. It has the Blu-ray disc and then the special features disc for each one. There's New Moon, Eclipse, Breaking Dawn Part 2. And there's a ton of special features in this whole thing, and I cannot wait to just get into all of them and maybe have some more insight in the movie that I didn't have before. That's gonna be really cool. And then on the back of this, the picture is, I believe it's them in the field, in the first one. Yeah, you know, where he sparkles. Yeah, that is the DVD set. It's gonna be so fun. I'm so excited to get into this. Okay, so I watched Twilight last night. I actually watched it with the commentary on, and let me tell you guys, if you have not watched Twilight with the commentary on, it's a game changer. In just funny little ways, So the commentary is with the director, Catherine Hardwicke, and then it's also with Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart. And it's so sad because Kristen and Robert, they're kind of like ragging on themselves the whole time. Like, there's a point where Kristen, like, she visibly, I mean, it's not visible because you can't see it, you can only hear it, but you can hear her cringing at some of her scenes. And Robert just like, he tears his appearance apart the whole time. And then Catherine like tries to like, you know, nag off of it and like, ah ha ha, like if only you knew your lines or something like that. Like it's a weird dynamic. It's very weird because you can tell that she is very proud of the movie that she put out, as she should be. And she was given like very limited time to do it. She talks about a lot how limited their time was to film this movie. All of the things that they were literally filming until like the last minute of daylight, you know, that she'd be like, oh, we had 5 minutes to get this scene. And it just like brings a different perspective to the movie for sure. I think that if you're a fan of the movie, the commentary is so necessary just so you can learn a little bit more about it. What are my thoughts regarding the book versus the movie? Let's see. One thing, and this is like a given because a book is like 400 pages and a movie is like an hour and 40 minutes. But there's obviously a lot more in the book. The book moves a lot slower than the movie. Like in the movie, she addresses how he's a vampire, and then immediately they're laying in the field and immediately he's showing her his glittery skin and everything. And in the book, that doesn't happen. They go on several dates. Like, they have a relationship that it moves along, it paces well. It's just funny. It's so funny how listening to the commentary, Kristen talks a lot about her line delivery and how she wanted things to come across. There's one point where she's in Edward's room and she's like, no bed. You know, like, you know, of course, like the teenage girl, like the first thing she's going to think about is where's his bed, you know, like she's in his room. Another cool thing that they talked about was the editing. I just really liked the bedroom scene for some reason. It really just stood out to me. She's just looking through his room, and they're talking about how like open and vulnerable that kind of moment is to be showing someone your bedroom. And they talked about how they did a lot of different things in that scene trying to like ease the tension. They talked a lot. They had a lot of different conversation starters, but they ended up just using takes that were completely silent. They just let her explore the room and him be kind of like nervous in the background, because that is such an intimate space and it's very vulnerable to show that off to someone that you really like. So I thought that was pretty cool. I forgot how much Jacob is in the movie. I thought that he was only in the La Push scene and then he was at the end of the prom scene, but there is another scene where he shows up with Charlie, right? Charlie is his dad or Bill is his? No. I don't remember. But there is another scene where he shows up with his dad to come visit Bella and her dad. And then he's also in the beginning, like when he gives her the truck, obviously. For some reason, I was thinking he was only in 2 scenes, and then in the book he's in there so much more, but that's not true. He's in definitely like 4 scenes in the movie, which I think is good enough. I was afraid that he was only in it for a little bit, and I was like, you know, there's not much of a gap to bridge there once you get to New Moon and everything that happens in New Moon. Speaking of New Moon, I'm so excited to get into that book. I've been like waiting to read it until I filmed this clip because I wanted it to still be fresh in my mind before I started the next book. There is a lot of iconic content in that book when it comes to the Twilight series, and I barely remember it. I barely remember the book, so I'm excited to get back into it, especially with how much I really liked the reread of Twilight. Yeah, I'm excited to see Bella's mind be even more depressed and more neurotic. It's gonna be fun for me. I don't care. I'm gonna enjoy it. And something that I didn't mention, which I think is crazy, is that Kristen Stewart was 17 in this movie. She was 17 when she filmed this movie, okay? So when you're being an angry old man and making fun of her in this movie, you're making fun of a 17-year-old girl, okay? So just like think about that. Think about that for a minute. I honestly, I can't believe that she did that at 17, that she was that good at 17, because I think Kristen Stewart is an amazing actress. I think that she is very good at getting into her character and loving her character and being in depth with her character. Like, she like gets her character on levels that I think that a lot of actors don't get to with their roles. But the fact that she did that at 17, that's freaking cool. Okay, that's really freaking cool. I wonder which literary fiction Stephenie Meyer is basing New Moon off of. Let's find out. Iconic. Hey, so I finished New Moon, the book. That's how I'm feeling. That's kind of how I'm feeling about this. In comparison to Twilight, abysmal. Very, very boring. Very apparent that Stephenie Meyer is not a good writer. Very apparent that this book was not edited, that she just word spat everywhere, and then her editor was like, yeah, it looks great, Stephenie, good job, another blockbuster, let's go. Really annoying for that, because I don't know, it could have been such a better story when you introduce this love triangle aspect that she was going for between Bella, Jacob, and Edward. And I honestly thought that the first half of the book was really good. Like, the way that Edward leaves her was great, and then her dealing with the loss of Edward and then falling for Jacob in the ways that she falls for Jacob. It's so hard. I don't know what to say, because rereading this, I understood why as a kid I loved Jacob. You could even say that I was Team Jacob. admitting that is very hard for me. Admitting that sounds gross to come out of my mouth. See, here's the thing. I was into the books before I knew about the movies, okay? So reading Twilight, it's hard to see Edward's redeeming qualities. Like, she just thinks, oh my God, he's so attractive and he's so aloof. Why is he so mysterious? I'm so attracted to this. And he's looking at her saying, why can't I read this girl's mind? What's up with her? You know, everyone's obsessed with her, but I can't even get into her mind. That's like the attraction that they have for each other. And then she like falls more for him once she finds out that he is this unattainable being in being a vampire. But then when we hear about Jacob to the reader is so much better of a boy, of a potential boyfriend. He is like smart and funny and he's flirty. And while Edward is protective of her, while I understand that he is overprotective of her, for some reason it's just like an angry, growly man who's scared of every other man who ever looks at her. Whereas Jacob is like all action, you know, he's like not afraid to like puff out his chest in front of people. And like, while Edward does go after the baddies, I don't know, I feel it more from Jacob. From rereading the two books, I just really, it's so hard to say, it's so hard to explain, but like there was a reason why I was Team Jacob back in the day, because the way that she writes him as a boyfriend, as a potential person for her, as a reader, as a female reader, like you just like that more. You like his energy, they have more charisma. I mean, her and Edward honestly have no charisma, especially in the first book. Like, it's all questions and it's all trying to understand the book and trying to understand like the point of the plot and like the vampirisms and everything about the vampires. So then when we get to her and Jacob, it's just easy. There's like no time to be questioning all of this stuff because they have all the time in the world to be flirty and to, I don't know, they just get along better. It's weird. It's very weird. So I have some notes. So here's an example of how Stephenie Meyer is not a good writer, kind of a lazy writer, I would say. They're talking about, so Bella has brought the bikes to Jacob to fix because she wants to be a daredevil now. And so then his friends come over and he shows his friends the bike and they're like excited about the bikes. They start talking about the bikes. It says, both boys went to examine Jacob's project, drilling him with educated questions. Many of the words they used were unfamiliar to me, and I figured I'd have to have a Y chromosome to really understand the excitement. This is what I'm talking about. There was no need in her to research any of this. I would have loved, as a person who knows nothing about bikes, and the bikes being kind of a really big, important piece to this story, to her and Jacob's story, and to create, a very believable love triangle. It would have been cool if she had done a little bit of research on bikes and that we saw or heard their conversation, or if it was like a problem of editing and they're like, this portion of conversation is not important, condense it into like a paragraph. If she had just mentioned some things about the bikes, some things that they were talking about or some things that they were looking at, like it's always cool to me as a reader when I learned something that I didn't know before about something that other people know about, something that I could easily research myself. But if it's like in the book, it's just like an extra way for me to learn something. And with the bikes being such an important part of the story in this book, I don't know, like you would have thought that a little research would have gone in and it wouldn't have just been like, I had to be boy to understand this, and I am not boy, I am girl, so I don't understand. The whole time I was reading this book, I wanted a really good explanation as to why Edward was in her head every time she did something dangerous or every time she was in danger. I couldn't remember. I was like, there's got to be a reason why this is happening. And I don't remember how it's done in the movie. I think it's a little cheesy from what I remember, but in the book, it's definitely just there. Like, it's definitely his voice is in her head telling her, no, stop. When she's talking with Laurent, when he is in the meadow and he's like about to eat her, it's like Edward's voice is telling her, lie, say this, do this, say this, like very specific instructions. And it's not just like, please stop, Bella, stop doing this, Bella, don't, Bella. Like, if there's no explanation as to why he's in her head, then it would make more sense for it to be like very generic phrases to be said in her head for her to hear from him. But when we get to the part in the meadow with Laurent, like I said, it's specific instructions. Say this, lie, do this. And so I wrote, I really hope that there's an explanation about how he can talk in her head. And let's see if there is an explanation for that. This book also, this is what I'm talking about with the editing. There were so many inconsistencies. There were grammar mistakes. There were parts where like they're talking and the quotations wouldn't be at the beginning of the quote. There were a lot of times where someone would be speaking for multiple paragraphs. And so like, I get it, like you leave that open-ended, but I'm talking about other times that people were talking. There were no quotation marks around things. Like, how did that get missed? This is like the best-selling series of this time, and it was not edited. It was pushed out, it was rushed out to explain an illogical inconsistency. There's a part where Jacob is trying to get Bella to guess that he's a werewolf, and he tries to jog her memory of the time when he told her the story about werewolves and vampires on the beach in the first book. And he goes, "Remember the first day we met on the beach in La Push? Her and Jacob have been friends for a decade. They have been friends since they were children, since they were making mud pies as babies. Like, they've been friends forever because she would come visit her father and he was friends with Jacob's dad and they would hang out. They meet in the first book before she goes to the beach in La Push. They might even meet twice before she goes to the beach in La Push." So for him to say, "Remember the first day we met on the beach in La Push?" I clocked that immediately. How did nobody reading or writing this clock that? There's another part where Jacob is talking about how he rushed after Bella when she cliff dived, I believe. And he's like, "Oh, I couldn't find you, but I thought, where would she be?" He says, "You spent so much time at the beach." There's not been a single scene in these two books where she's been at the beach except for when she was at La Push in the first book with a group of friends. When has she ever been to the beach? She didn't live at the beach with her mom. Like, this is what I'm talking about. It's just word vomit in this book at this point. Just random things to fill the space. Oh my gosh. Another thing I wrote down is how badly I need to know why Edward can't read her thoughts, why none of the vampires in the Volturi can like use their powers on her. Like, why is she so immune? Like, why is she so powerful? And like, I know the power that she gets at the end of the series, so like, I feel like that is what it's chalked up to be, is that it's just like, oh, she's just that powerful. Like, she's so powerful that like no one can get into her mind of any type or anything. And yeah, so we get to the end of the book and there's literally no explanation as to why she could hear Edward in her head during all those moments. Like, it's brought up by the time Edward comes back and we're talking and everything. It's brought up like, "Oh yeah, I would do dangerous things to hear you in my head, but it was just subconscious." And Edward's like, "Yeah, guess it was." Like, am I missing? Maybe he's gaslighting her and we'll find out later that it had something to, like, he did something so that because remember what I said, it's not just him saying, "Stop, don't do this," and it could be chalked up to self-conscious talking in her mind. It's literally, he was giving her instructions on how to speak and how to act and everything. I'm sorry that I'm ripping this book apart, but I had so many problems with it. Just very lazy writing, terrible editing, just adding things that don't get explained. I hate that. I hate that so much. So the last note I made, and I'm trying to find what page this is on. I can't find it, but basically when Edward gets back with Bella at the end, she mentions how Victoria was coming after her. Like, the wolves and everyone found out that Victoria was like on her way, on her scent and everything, and trying to go after her. And Edward talks about how he didn't think Victoria was going to be a threat. He was like, "I was so focused on James and I literally didn't think about Victoria. You know, like, I didn't think she was a threat." But then pages later, it mentions how it says, "Even though I never expected any danger from Victoria, I wasn't gonna let her get away with it. So I was hunting her, basically, you know." And then Bella shrieks. She's like, "You were hunting Victoria?" Why is she so surprised about that, knowing that Victoria was coming after her and Edward is like, you know, so down bad for her? Like, of course he's gonna go after the person who's coming after Bella, like, whether or not she knows that or not, like, it shouldn't be that surprising to her. But he literally just said that he did not think that Victoria was a threat, that he did not think about how much of a threat she would be because he was so focused on James. And then once James was dead, he was like, "Ah, it's good. I can leave Bella in peace. She's safe. There's no other vampires coming after her." But then he's talking about how he was hunting Victoria. And that but yet he was so surprised that Victoria was coming after. Like, Oh my god, like I swear nobody read this before it was published. Anyway, I'm excited to watch the next movie. I really am excited to just sit down and enjoy it and laugh at it and have a good time with it. I have to go downtown to see a movie in the city, so I'm gonna go do that in just a few minutes. But yeah, I will update you guys after I see the new Moon movie, and then hopefully before I start Eclipse. But yeah, see you later. Let's go. Hi. Okay, I'm sorry if this lighting is so bad. I can't really tell. I have a little light on over here, but I'm watching New Moon, okay? And I felt like I was very confused why Bella is so obsessed with Edward. Like, that's like my biggest question here, is why is she so obsessed with him? I feel like there's not much of a connection. There's not a lot of charisma. There's not a lot of chemistry between the two, other than she's like fascinated with the fact that he's a vampire and he's like so different. I just didn't get it. But you know, watching New Moon and rereading New Moon as well, I understand that maybe one of the reasons why she likes him so much is because he's such a tortured soul. Okay. And like, what teenage girl doesn't love that? Like, what teenage girl is not drawn to the boy who reads and writes poetry and can play the piano and quotes Romeo and Juliet? Like, an 18-year-old girl, a 18-year-old girl, like, I totally see why she likes Edward. I mean, he's the artsy fartsy tortured vampire boy who's never gotten what he wanted. And I don't know, I'm only like maybe like 15 minutes in. Like, we just saw the scene where it's her birthday party and she gets the paper cut and everything, and I don't know, it suddenly clicked for me. It suddenly made a lot of sense. And another thing real quick, Kristen Stewart is beautiful in this movie. Absolutely gorgeous in this movie. Okay, so I just finished watching New Moon. Honestly, I don't have anything to say. Oh my god. Okay, so my biggest problem with New Moon, the book, was that there was no explanation as to why she was hearing Edward in her head, why she was seeing premonitions of him, why he was giving her instructions on how to speak and how to talk and what to do. And I was hoping that for the movie, maybe they would make something up. Like, something else that they added in the movie is that her and Jacob almost kiss. That's kind of crazy. I don't remember that in the book, and I'm pretty sure that they don't kiss until the third book. But so I was thinking, you know, maybe they'll make something up, like, just because it is a giant plot hole. But no, there's absolutely no explanation to it. No, it's just something that was, you know, he was just there in her mind, giving her instructions and telling her what to do. And yeah, that sucks. So I read my Letterboxd review for this movie when I watched it, like a couple years ago, I think. And I said that I always hated Jacob. I was like, I always hated him in the books and I always hated him in the movie. This movie is so irrelevant because it should have just been Edward and Bella fluff for 4 books. And that's a lie. Like, that's a freaking lie. I don't know why I lied like that, because I loved Jacob in the books as a kid. And rereading it, I'm like remembering why I like Jacob. And like I said, it's just because they have more chemistry than Edward and Bella have. And I was fighting with myself trying to understand why she likes Edward so much in the books, I guess. And I like I mentioned before, I forgot that he's just this tortured poet boy, you know. And it clicked. It just made more sense to me once I started watching the movie. So I'm really glad that I'm watching and reading these in junction. I'm really excited to start Eclipse because I do not remember that book. Like, if I ever reread any of the books, I only ever reread Twilight and New Moon, and I never made it to Eclipse. And I know that I only read Breaking Dawn one time, and I have no memory of that book. I know the movie fairly well. I've seen it once or twice, but the book, I mean, that book went in one ear out the other. And as for Eclipse, I've only read it once, so I'm like excited to see just more about it, I guess. I'm excited to see how the dynamic between the love triangle happens. I don't feel like I've read very many successful love triangles, and I would love if this one gets a little dicey, just because I remembered loving Jacob so much, but I wanted her to be with Edward, and then I grew up and I loved Edward in the movies and everything as I got older. But yeah, that's all I have to say. I'll see you guys later when I start reading Eclipse. Bye! Oh my gosh, this is so cool. I feel like a real YouTuber. I have this little handheld selfie stick with lights. Okay, this is the first time I'm using it. This is so nice because I can just be laying in bed reading, and then like suddenly I have like an idea, something that I want to say about what I'm reading, or it's like good for vlogs. Okay, anyway, we basically have a promise that Bella will become a vampire. Otherwise the Volturi will kill her, or they'll punish Edward because she knows about them and everything, and it's just like dangerous for them. But then they promise that they will change her into a vampire. And so I think that that's definitely really cool. Like, that was a great idea on Stephenie Meyer's part to put that in the books, because otherwise I feel like it would have been such a hard stone crossroad for her and Edward, because he's so adamant against making her a vampire, and it's all that she wants is to become a vampire. And then we have like this other force of Jacob who doesn't want her to be a vampire too. So the fact that like they're kind of basically like bullied into promising to make her a vampire, I don't know, I thought that that was like smart writing on her part. Another thing that was interesting is that at the end of the book, Jacob comes to warn Edward, and he's like, remember the treaty, remember that if you bite a human, that we will come after you. Like, that's part of the treaty. Not that if you'll kill a human, but if you bite a human, meaning if you turn Bella, we will come for you. And that wasn't in the movie. That was really interesting. So I'm excited to get into reading Eclipse so that I can see like if that is explored more, if it's just like, so long as you do it in Forks will come for you, because I think that she changes somewhere else, but I don't remember. So I'm really excited to keep reading and keep finding out, because if not, I feel like that's kind of a big plot hole, because that is a big threat that he leaves with Edward at the end of the book. And yeah, I'm just excited and interesting to see where that goes. Hi, good morning. It's the next morning. I have some time today, so I thought that I would go ahead and start Eclipse and bring you guys along with me while I react to and start this book. I have barely any remembrance of this book. Like I said, I may have only read it one time in the past, and the movie I have only seen twice. So I remember what happens in it, but only a few scenes. Like, it does not stand out to me at all, and I feel like I remember the book being pretty pointless. So I don't know, I'm just excited to get into it. Hopefully I can finish it today. That's definitely my goal, is to finish it today. So let's get started. No, because I can't believe this. This is literally only chapter 2. She decides, oh my gosh, my eye, I've been like itching my eye. Oh my gosh, my eye is so itchy, like how red it is. Anyway, literally still on chapter 2, and she decides to go see Jacob. She's like, you know what, like, I'm tired of this silence, I'm tired of this weirdness, I'm just gonna go see him. I need to go see him. She goes to her car, and Edward literally took out a piece of the engine. He literally won't let her leave the house. He's like, what does he say? I'll put your car back together in time for school in case you'd like to drive yourself. Break up. Red flag. Like, he's talking about how when she's with the wolves, Alice can't see the future because the wolves, like, it's just like dark when she tries to see anything about the wolves' future. Like, they're just like immune to her powers and everything of being able to foresee the future. And so Alice saw that Bella's future was going to be blank in the future because she was going to go to see Jacob and he's a wolf, you know? And so Edward literally takes out a part of her engine to keep her from going to see her friend. Like, I get it, he can't protect her at that point, so like, and I get that's his whole thing is protecting her, but like, this is what I'm saying, y'all. This is what I'm saying. Edward already has so few redeeming qualities about him, and then to add the toxicity to the mix, I'm thinking some thoughts right now. I'm thinking some thoughts. Oh my god, my eye is so irritated. Don't look at that, okay? So they got back from Florida, and it's kind of like, it's good that it was just like a very short couple paragraphs describing their like time in Florida and everything. But it still doesn't explain. It doesn't explain how he was able to be in the airport, how he was able to be picked up from Miami airport. It doesn't explain how he was able to be in the car with her mom. Like, he was just able to go to Florida and no problem. Like, he didn't sparkle. Like, the sun never hit him. Like, there's no explanation for that whatsoever. Y'all, that's so weird. That's so lame. That's such lazy writing. No explanations, no nothing. Just, yeah, they were in Florida, and the one time that Bella and her mom went to go walk on the beach, he pretended he had to write a term paper to avoid the sun, but he was able to get picked up from the airport. He was able to leave the airport just fine, and the whole rest of the time they're in sunny Florida, where it's sunny from 7 to 10 every day. Yeah, that's stupid. That's so dumb. I hate that. Okay, I'm sorry that I am writing Jacob's dick so hard, but this is what I mean. Like, he finally talks to her for the first time since the end of New Moon. And listen to this explanation of how she feels as soon as she hears his voice. 1,000 memories spun in my head, tangling together, a rocky beach strewn with driftwood trees, a garage made of plastic sheds, warm sodas in a paper bag, a tiny room with one too small shabby love seat, the laughter in his deep-set black eyes, the feverish heat of his big hand around mine, the flash of his white teeth against his dark skin, his hand stretching into a wide smile that had always been like a key to a secret door where only kindred spirits could enter. See, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, the way that she writes Jacob and the way that she cares and loves for Jacob is so much more than what she talks about for Edward. Like, with Edward, it's just like, oh, he's as stiff as a stone and he's got beautiful hair and beautiful eyes and I love him. But like with Jacob, she's talking about, I mean, just even the imagery of warm sodas in a paper bag, a tiny room with one too small shabby love seat. That is poetry. That makes me want to be with Jacob. Oh my gosh, like it's crazy how good she writes Jacob and how good she writes Bella and Jacob's relationship, and then we're just supposed to believe that her and Edward are soulmates and lovers for life. It's not giving at all. Finally, some romance from Mr. Tortured Poet over here. I'll be back so soon you won't have time to miss me. Look after my heart. I've left it with you. Thank you. I am standing here in utter shock. I wasn't going to update again until tonight. I was going to read as much as I could today and then give you guys a little update at the end of the night. Okay, I know I mentioned before how it was interesting in the New Moon movie that he tries to kiss her, like he kind of goes in for a kiss, and honestly their lips do touch in the movie for like barely a second, but that didn't happen in the book. Like there's no like attempted kiss in the book or anything like that. Tell me why the kiss between her and Jacob in Eclipse is actually sexual assault. It's actually sexual battery. Like, she wanted no one to be Team Jacob. She did not want a single person reading this book to be Team Jacob by writing this scene right here. I am appalled. I'm so grossed out. Literally, like, he's being so rough. He's kissing her angrily. I'm reading off of this. She's pushing against his chest to get him to go away, and he's not. She grabs his face, tries to push it away. She fails, and then it finally says, acting on instinct, I let my hands drop to my side and shut down. I opened my eyes and didn't fight, didn't feel, just waited for him to stop. Babe, that's sexual assault. Ew. Okay, I'm reading ahead. She's like, are you done now? I asked in an expressionless voice. Yes, he sighed. He started to smile, closing his eyes. I don't care if this is going to be one of those, I knew you were never going to pick me, but I just had to know what it felt like. Get out of here. Get out of here. I can't believe she would do that to me. I can't believe that I've gone these 2-3 books, been like, you know, I was a Jacob fan back in the day, and I still kind of am, because Edward's just not giving what I need him to give, and Jacob totally is. And then she throws this at me. Fuck. I didn't even read to the next page, and I forgot that she punches him in the face. Oh, it's so deserved. It's so deserved. She should have punched him in the balls as well. Okay, I just read the part where Bella and Jacob kiss again. Babe, you're engaged. Like, you have a fiance, okay? And even if you don't really want to get married, because marriage is like a huge problem for her, even if you don't want to say the word fiance, that's fine. You have a boyfriend. Like, you are in a relationship. And she says, will you kiss me, Jacob? And he's like, you're bluffing. Kiss me, Jacob. Kiss me, and then come back. I'm not gonna lie, the way that the kiss is written is very nice. Props to Stephanie Meyer for writing a good kissing scene. There's like a lot of anger in it. There's like misunderstanding between both of them on like both how like passionately they want to be kissing. There's like a lot of anger in the kiss, and I think that she writes that well. She starts to have like visions of a possible future with Jacob, and she thinks about their children. She like sees 2 dark-haired children like running through the forest. Like, I don't know what it is. She went all out for this love triangle, because it's not just like, oh, here's this guy that's like obviously the one and I like him the most and I'm engaged to him, but here's this other guy who makes me feel so tortured and I don't know what to do. No, it's like, oh, here's this guy who's my fiance, and then here's this guy who's my BFF and I don't want him to die. Oh, kiss me so you won't die. Kiss me so that you'll take care of yourself, so you think that you can come back to me. I hate it. I really, really don't like this. It makes me feel gross. I read the scene, my favorite scene, I've been waiting for this scene. This is the only part of Eclipse I've ever remembered, is when she is in the tent and Edward can't keep her warm, so then Jacob gets in the sleeping bag with her, and like his body heat, his wolf heat keeps her from dying overnight. And I think that that's a great scene. Like, that's a great love triangle-y scene, because the boys are fighting and then they're like fighting while she's falling asleep and she's like hearing them, but they're just like talking about how like Edward wishes he could do what Jacob is able to do for her, and they talk about like when Edward left her and like the pain that he caused her and everything. And Jacob is like tortured between, because he knows that she really loves Edward and all this stuff. So like that is great. That's a great part, and that's a great way to write a love triangle. But this kissing, ew, I'm not a fan of this at all. Like, I'm excited. How is Edward gonna react to this? I hope he's pissed. I hope he's pissed. She really made Edward redeem himself in this book. While Jacob loses points significantly throughout the book, Edward keeps gaining points. He's like not mad about it. He says that Jacob was like manipulating her into feeling bad so that she would initiate the kiss, so that Edward would not have a reason to break his face, basically, because she asked for it. And like that's Edward's whole thing, is like she can have whatever she asks for, anything that's like on her terms, on her consent, he's like perfectly fine with, even if it means kissing the other man. Okay. But he talks about how he left her and how hurtful that was. And he says, I may gain forgiveness, but that doesn't let me escape the consequences. Meaning that like the consequence of her finding refuge in Jacob after he left. And I get that he's an old soul, okay? Like, I get that he's wise beyond his years and he's 109 years old, but I wanted a fight. I wanted a vampire werewolf fight where, but it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. Bella's too, and Edward he just keeps getting better. Like, it's funny how Team Jacob I became, and it's all because of her writing. She is just like changing things, changing the reader's perspective, and I don't know. I'll talk to you guys at the end. Okay, it is noon, it is almost 12, and I am on chapter 26. So I have two more chapters. No, I have 26 and 27, and then I have the epilogue. So basically like 3 chapters left. I'm going to make a quick omelet, and then I'm gonna sit and hopefully finish this in one setting. We'll see though. Pancake, go away. Yeah, you can't be here. I did it! I finished Eclipse. It is 1 p.m. I gave a couple little updates. I kind of just ranted as I read it. So hopefully I'm not repeating myself. Obviously I'll catch it in editing, but I'm just gonna go through the little highlights and the little notes that I gave. One thing I want to say though before I get started on this, it is so interesting how Stephenie Meyer really manipulates her audience. And I mean that in the best way possible. I mean that in like a good writing kind of way, because we read Twilight and we fall in love with Edward. We read New Moon, we fall in love with Jacob. And then Eclipse is supposed to be the joining force between the two that we as the reader inside of Bella's head realize and decide that we're picking Edward, you know? And so with Eclipse, basically what she does is she gives Jacob a lot of bad screen time. He does a lot of things wrong. He's very aggressive and very selfish. And Bella feels bad for choosing Edward over him, but like, at least Edward isn't like forcing you into kissing him. You know, it's weird. It's definitely weird. And then Edward gets such a redemption because he is just like so romantic in this one. He's like, it's like I didn't catch why she liked him so much in Twilight. There wasn't enough writing there because there was a lot of backstory. But then for Eclipse, we see his romantic side, we see his sweet side, we see his caring side a lot more. And that's another thing in Eclipse, is that there is so much story. There's so much backstory. We get Rosalie's backstory, we get Jasper's backstory, we get Alice's backstory to an extent, we get the wolves' backstory. We hear the whole story of the third wife. How do you say it? Quiluates, the tribe that the wolves are part of. It's like one of their origin stories, talking about this sacrifice that one of the wives gives between a fight between the vampires and the werewolves, like way back in the day. She like slices herself so that her blood spurts everywhere so that the vampire is distracted, and then the wolves win the fight. And I hate it, and I knew that was going to come back into play, and I was like excited for it. I was excited to see Bella do something. That's another good thing about Eclipse, is that there was good action. We finally saw the climax. We finally saw a fight, and I was afraid that it was just going to be like they were up in the hill on the mountainside, just like waiting it out, and then they'd be like, okay, we won, good job everyone. But no, there was the fight with Victoria and another young a young vampire. Yeah, that was cool. So there was the foreshadowing with the legend of the third wife, where she sacrifices herself to help the fight, and Bella does that at the end. She cuts herself so that the young vampire and Victoria are distracted because she thinks that they're losing, because the wolf that is protecting her, Seth, I believe it is, he's like whining and she thinks he's in pain. And then Edward later, he's like, girl, why did you do that? Like, he was just pretending to be hurt. Like, he was just pretending. And then when you did that, I had to step in and go fight the young vampire that Seth was fighting because everyone was distracted. And then I had to run back to Victoria and fight her. And I hated that. I hated that they set up this foreshadowing of this legend for someone to sacrifice themselves. Bella sacrifices part of herself. And then it's just like, why did you do that? Are you dumb? You know, like, we had it in the bag and you actually made it worse. So I didn't like that at all. I wish it had been more satisfying that she had saved them or helped the fight a little bit. But maybe that just like is supposed to perpetuate this thing of like, she is useless as a human and she won't be able to help until she is a vampire. But whatever. Okay, let's go over my notes. Another example I had for why Team Jacob was prevailing. She's trying to get like information out of Edward. Like, she's just always doing that throughout the whole book, trying to get information. She's just trying to learn as much as she can. It says, I knew Jacob would give me more details than Edward had. He wasn't afraid of scaring me. And I liked that because Jacob just treated her like a real person. Like, he was like, yeah, you can know anything now. I'm not afraid to scare you off because I know you're not going to get scared, and it's better that you're educated. And Edward, it took some time for him to get to that point. I'm not sure if he still is at that point because he still is very secretive around her, in my opinion. But that was just an example of how Jacob really, to me, sees her more as a real person and not just some doll that needs to be protected. There is a lot of toxicity between both of the boys. Bella went to go hang out with Jacob, and Edward, he's like all angry and he's in her room waiting for her when she gets back. He goes, Bella, he whispered, do you have any idea how close I came to crossing the line today, to breaking the treaty and coming after you? Do you know what that would have meant? That would have meant that his whole family died. If he had broken the treaty, his whole family would be murdered by the wolves, okay? So him to be like, because you went to your friend's house, I almost broke the treaty, which would have gotten my whole family killed. So it's your fault. Like, it's toxic. Like, they are toxic men, and I get that they're young. I mean, Edward's 109, but like, I would have been so mad if he tried to pin that on me. Like, it's fine if you want to be mad about me seeing my friend, but like, to try to guilt me, ooh, it's gross. One good thing though is that like, Edward will have a toxic moment and then he'll grow up. Like, he will like learn that what he did was wrong. Even though I don't think that Bella teaches him that, he just kind of like reflects and stews in it and realizes that his behavior was incorrect. And that's fine. I definitely like that, because after he has the whole blowout when she goes to La Push and everything, he's like, most importantly, I'm not willing to let this drive a wedge between us, meaning that like, as mad as he is, she is still like the most important thing to him, and like, he's not gonna let that come in between them. I still think that he should have apologized for trying to blame the possible murder of his entire family on her for going to La Push, but okay. I do love when Bella gets angry, when Bella doesn't get her way, or when like they make a big deal out of something for Bella, because her anger, like the way that Stephanie Meyer writes her anger, is funny. This is after Jacob mashed his mouth into her mouth without consent, and then after he's done with her, she punches him in the face and breaks her hand. It says, I'm gonna get some ice on my hand, and then I'm gonna call Edward and tell him to come and get me and take me to Carlisle so he can fix my hand. Then if you're still here, I'm going to hunt up a crowbar. Like, she's like, I don't know, the way that she writes her anger is really fun. It's really funny to me. Yeah, that's all I have to say. So I don't know if this is in the movie. I'm obviously gonna watch the movie once I'm done filming this. But in the book, there is a huge graduation party for Bella that Alice puts on at the Cullens house, and literally like the whole graduating class is invited, the wolves are invited. And I don't remember this being in the movie, but I thought it was so cool. I liked the idea of them all being together. I love when I'm reminded that Edward is a 17-year-old Victorian boy, okay? And not only that, but he's a 17-year-old rich, white, sickly Victorian boy, and you get reminded of that by the way he speaks sometimes. So Jacob gave her a graduation present or a birthday present. I think it was a graduation present, and it was like the little charm bracelet, and Edward is like a little jealous of it, and he goes, "Have you noticed the inequality?" he asked, and his voice turned accusing. "Because I certainly have." "What inequality?" His eyes narrowed. "Everyone else is able to get away with giving you things. Everyone but me. I would have loved to get you a graduation present, but I didn't. I knew it would have upset you more than if anyone else did. That's utterly unfair. How do you explain yourself?" How do you explain yourself? Ending an accusation with, "How do you explain yourself?" That's so old school, and I love it. Oh yeah, like I said, there is so much backstory. I even made an extra note for all of the backstory that there is between each of the wolf characters. And I think that the wolves, there's a lot more about them in Breaking Dawn, so maybe she's just kind of setting up like, hey, here's their quick backstory so that when we talk about them in the next book, you'll remember they're half brothers, they like each other, they don't like each other. But for this one, I was trying to get through it. It was not interesting. It was not funky fun. It was not fresh. I really liked, there's a part when they're getting ready to do the big fight, to fight the newborn vampires. And Edward is like, oh, you know, like, you'll stay up here, you'll be safe with these people, and the wolves will protect you, like, da-da-da-da, we'll have, like, they'll be your guards, basically. And she has trouble asking him to stay. And I really like the way that Stephenie Meyer wrote that, because when you are finally with someone that you really love and that you trust, it can still be hard to articulate your wants and your needs, and it can be, like, embarrassing almost. And all she does is she's just being like, please, can you stay with me? Like, that's all she's asking, and it's very hard for her to get the words out. It's very hard for her to be selfish like that, and I felt that to be very relatable. She talks about how she can't even, like, it's hard, it's gonna be like, she's not even gonna fake a smile for what she's asking, you know, not trying to, like, brush it off. She's just trying to be as real and honest with him as she can in the moment. And he, of course, is, like, very good. He's like, anything you want, I will give you anything you want. If you want me to stay with you, absolutely, I'll stay with you. And that's really nice, really reassuring, and I just think that she does a good job of articulating how hard that can be. There's, like, two little scenes where Jacob is a dog, and I think it's really cute the way he, like, responds to her, like, nuzzles up on her, gives little whines. I think that that's cute. I guess I like Jacob more as a dog than as a person in this book. Okay, this is my qualm with the book. This is my biggest ick with the book. This is my problem. The italics. Stephenie Meyer needs to have her italics ability taken away. Like, disable that button on Word document. Disable it. She does not deserve it anymore. She abused her italics power. The page that I finally decided to make a note about, okay, and it's not because of how many were on this page. I just was like, if I see it again, I'm gonna make a note, because it had been too damn much, okay? So in the page that I finally made the note saying too many italics, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 7 italics on that one page. I went back a little bit and I went forward a little bit to, like, get, like, a full page, okay? 7 italics. No, and like, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's things like where you, like, put the inflection on the word, so it's like, no, silly girl, he muttered against my shoulder. I'm trying to protect yours, and you're making it shockingly difficult. Or this one has 3 in 3 sentences. Let's go. He smiled at me until I gave up with an angry humph. So that's it. You won't sleep with me until we're married? Technically, I can't ever sleep with you. Stop it. I bet if I counted the italics, it would be in the thousands for this book. No, I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. There would be 1,000 italics. Finally, once Bella and Jacob, like, discuss the kiss more forward, the non-consensual kiss, she's like, but I don't count that as a kiss, Jacob. I think of it more as an assault. And she was correct. And there is a lot of manipulation in this book between the two boys. They both manipulate the fuck out of her. Jacob especially. Like, Stephenie Meyer really did not want us to be Team Jacob anymore with this book. She was like, I'm gonna introduce what imprinting is. Jacob is gonna be an asshole so that Bella and Edward can get married. Like, that was the point of this book. Okay, final 2 things, and they're just, like, silly, goofy little things that, like, maybe this wasn't edited perfectly well. I will say it was edited so much better than New Moon was edited. New Moon had mistakes. New Moon was not proofread. New Moon was written in one go and then sent off to the publishers. Nobody edited that book. This one was a little better, but like here are two goofy little things that stood out to me. So, so we're talking about how Seth is the alpha male, the alpha werewolf, and Jacob is the beta. And so it goes, so Bella says, so how does that work? How did Sam end up as the alpha and you as the beta? And then it says, Jacob chuckled at my invented terms. Bella, I'm sorry, girl. I know you think the world revolves around you, but you did not invent the terms alpha and beta. Okay, first of all, like she thinks she's living in ancient Greek times. Like, girl, get your head out of your ass. Your invented terms. Give me a break. And then last one, when we see Victoria's like there in the woods in the clearing. She's like on her way to get Bella and everything, and Edward's all stanced up and Seth is ready to go. And it says, a few feet to the side and a few feet back, Victoria was staring at me. Her orange hair was brighter than I'd remembered, more like a flame. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not going to go back into it. Actually, I will. Actually, you know what? Because I can search on the Kindle. I can search for words. Yes. Okay. Here's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Let me count it. Again, the quote is, her orange hair was brighter than I'd remembered, more like a flame. And in the past, 4 times to be exact, we have described Victoria's hair to be looking like a flame. So what do you mean it's brighter than I remembered? It's more like a flame. When every time you've remembered it, it looked like a flame. See, like that's what I'm talking about. Like I remembered that, and granted, I have been reading them within like a week span, but I can't imagine that Stephenie Meyer doesn't know her books front and back. Like, how do you write it and then edit it so much and go through the whole process and not remember everything that you wrote about it? I mean, maybe it's harder than I'm thinking because you are like getting rid of stuff and you're not remembering every new edition or everything that like the editor puts in, but it's still goofy because I, as the reader, definitely remembered that the hair had been described as bright as a flame, as orange as a flame, and then to say it's brighter than I remembered, it's different. It's more like a flame this time. No, we're done. Yeah, so I don't think I have any closing statements for Eclipse. I'm excited to read Breaking Dawn. This video is already going to be so freaking long. I don't know how you guys are going to watch this. I don't know how anyone is still watching this, but thank you if you are. Like, really, thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna go watch Eclipse. I'm gonna read Breaking Dawn, hopefully in a day. Hopefully, oh my god, please let me finish it within a day. And then I'll see you guys later. Let's go. Oh my gosh, why does she look like that? That's terrible. Hi, it's me back again. Okay, I immediately watched Eclipse. I immediately got right into it, and I'm just gonna let's go. Point number 1. Okay, good thing about the movies is that we get to see all the action. In the book, you know, Jacob gets hurt, but we don't see it. In the movie, like, Bella's right there. She's on site. She sees it all, so we see it all. And I definitely appreciate that. And like the same thing happens in the first book, in the first movie, where they're fighting James and they're tearing him apart. And in the book, we don't see anything. She just passes out and then she wakes up in the hospital. But I love that in the movie, we do get to see the action. And I feel like that's true with all the movies. Okay, huge plot hole, and maybe it's not a plot hole, maybe I'm just thinking too much into it. Jasper was made into a vampire during the Civil War, okay, in the 1860s, okay? And the Cullens talk about how he is the newest one in their clan, how he is the newest vampire. I always took that to mean that he was like baby day 1, okay, like he was changed into a vampire like 12 years ago. Like that's why he's having such a hard time being around humans, or why it's like harder for him, because he's such a new vampire. But what I think they mean is that he is new to their veggie diet. Like he is new to the family lifestyle of not eating humans, because he was fighting, as we find out in Eclipse, he was fighting people in the South. he was fighting other vampires, and there was like no rules, like he could kill humans and it was fine. He didn't think that that was wrong, and the people that he was with didn't think that was wrong either. So that's probably what they're talking about by the fact that like he's a new vampire. He's just new to the veggie diet, okay? I did a little research, okay, because I couldn't remember the exact dates when they talk about when Alice and Jasper meet each other, but of course, like, Wikipedia got me. Thank you, Wikipedia. Thank you, Twilight fans. Love you. Him and Alice meet in 1950, so it's basically 50 years later, in the mid to late 2000s, is when he's in high school in Forks with Bella Swan, okay? So he's been a veggie vampire for 50 years and he's still having trouble. Like, I get it, because like Edward, he's been a vampire for 100 years. And then we have Rosalie, who's been a vampire for 70 years. But Jasper, who's been a vampire for 140 years, who's been veggie for only 50 years, is having the hardest trouble with it. But like Rosalie's only 20 years older than him. Like, I feel like 50 years is enough. Like, I feel like they didn't need to play up that, or Stephenie Meyer didn't need to play up that, oh, he's a new vampire, he can't handle it, he can't handle human blood. Maybe it's also just because he went through like 90 years of only drinking human blood. So that actually makes a lot more sense. But yeah, I felt like I had to uncover that detail. That detail was never made clear in the book so far. Maybe Breaking Dawn has something to say, I don't know. But that detail was never made clear, and I had to come to that conclusion on my own with Wikipedia, so that was kind of lame. The whole purity thing is so gross to me. I hate purity culture. It is so toxic. It's so damaging, especially to young minds. The whole thing about Edward, where he talks about how like he's already damned basically because he's a vampire and he's made mistakes and he's killed people, and he doesn't want to be responsible for her possible damnation by taking away her virginity. Like, I'm literally throwing up all over the place. That is so annoying. And I get these books were made like 20 years ago. Times have changed. I also know Stephenie Meyer's background, the fact that she's a Mormon, okay? No comment, no comment. I just think that is so annoying and gross, and I hate that part of the books, and I hate that part of the movie. I'm glad that Bella is like normal though, where she's just like, who cares? Like, we both want to have sex, like, we're both responsible and we're going to be responsible about it. Like, what's the holdup? I'm glad that she's not also like, he respects me because he wants to wait so that I don't go to hell when I die. Like, you guys are vampires. You guys are literally vampires. In the movie, he gave her the ugliest ring. Y'all, the ugliest ring. If I can find a picture, I will post it. Because that is not allowed. That is not allowed for lover boy Edward to be giving her that ugly of a ring. And if I'm remembering right, the description in the book, it talks about how it's like a layer of diamonds. So there's like diamonds, and then there's like a layer of maybe like one more big diamond or other diamonds. So it's like a layered engagement ring, which, like, gorgeous. I mean, sounds about right that this Victorian boy would have like this stacked ring, and instead he gives her fucking costume jewelry from Forever 21. Like, get out of here. Those were my qualms. The movie went by so fast, faster than it took me to read. I mean, I read that book all day yesterday, like all day yesterday, and that movie flew by. There were like a few things that didn't happen, like when Edward gives her the charm for the charm bracelet that Jacob gives her. In the book, I read that quote where he's like, how come people cannot give you gifts but I can't? Like, can you explain yourself on that? And he gives her a charm that was like his mother's. And then in the movie, he just looks at it and he's like, what the heck? And she's like, just chill out. It's a birthday present, or it's a graduation present. And then when the next time he sees her, he's like, and he like puts it on real quick and he's like, I thought you should have a present from me, you know? And she's like, oh, it's beautiful. Like, no explanation that it was his mother's, like no explanation of like, because it makes him look bad in the movie, like, why didn't he get her a graduation present, you know? But in the book, it's like explained. So that's what I'm talking about, like little things like that where like the explanation in the movie could have been helpful for character development, but whatever. I'm excited to get into Breaking Dawn. I know I've been saying that for all of these books and all of these movies, but I don't care. I'm excited to be done. I'm so excited to be done. Okay, yeah, I'll see you guys later. Okay. I don't even know what time it is. Okay, it's 9:30. I forgot that we had tickets to go see The Lighthouse in theaters, and so I've been doing that for the last couple hours, but I'm back now and I plan on reading all through the night until I fall asleep, and I can't wait. I'm excited for it, but I just thought I'd give you guys an update. 9:30. Let's see where I'm at with Breaking Dawn. I'm on chapter 5. They are at Isle Esme. They're at their honeymoon. I'm a little confused. It's not how I remember it. I feel like I was missing some pages, but yeah, I'm definitely excited to finish this. Bella's part 1, and then Jacob is part 2, and then Bella is part 3. And I'm already almost done with part 1 of Bella. I feel like part 1 could be read in like an hour. It's really quick, really easy. Another thing that's interesting is that Bella's POV has always had one-word chapter titles, which I love chapter titles, by the way. But Jacob's is like long sentences or just like a phrase or a few words or something. And that's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm excited to get back into this. Okay, see you later.
Well, my baby's got a lot worse.
I did it. I finished Breaking Dawn. This book, it put me into a reading slump. Like, let's just start off there. It took me too long to finish Breaking Dawn. Not to say it wasn't interesting, not to say I didn't have a good time reading it, but I feel like I've gained 10 years of life. I feel like the bags under my eyes have lengthened 2 more inches. What do I even want to say about Breaking Dawn? This book is so unsatisfying. I mean, if you've read it, you know, maybe you really liked it. If you did, like, I'm so happy for you. I really, truly am, because I wish that this had been a fun read for me. It's crazy how this whole time reading these books, Twilight has been such a high, and then like it's just like it was a roller coaster moving up. I was excited, I was ready to go, and then I was stuck at the top of the roller coaster, and I was never able to go down and like have a fun, exhilarating, thrilling experience reading this vampire werewolf love triangle that held the hearts of many in the late 2000s, early 2010s, including me at that time, by the way, including me. Oh my god. I'm so disappointed with that ending, you guys. I mean, obviously, spoilers ahead, okay? Nothing happens. They don't do anything. You know, Bella gets pregnant. She has a baby. The baby grows out of her stomach, basically claws its way into life, which is just terrifying. I'm like genuinely so disappointed. I'm so disappointed, and I can't wait to watch the movies and love my life even more. Okay, let's get into these notes because I'm just rambling, literally talking about nothing. I have been putting off filming this clip, and I've just been talking nonsense for the last 4 minutes because I truly have nothing to say about this book. It's so boring. It's so dull. The greatest thing that we have been waiting for is the eventual sex scene between vampire Edward and human Bella. And Stephenie Meyer gucks it up. Oh my gosh, y'all. Okay, you know what? Let me just start from the beginning with my notes. Let me just start from the beginning. Okay, first thing that I have to mention, it's the first note that I made for this book. I just said, she's so funny. And I love that because Stephenie Meyer never like wayside away from Bella being funny. I don't know, I think Bella is actually really funny. Like, she's very monotone, she's very bland, she's very like neurotic, like very negative, and so the things that she has to say when she finally does decide to talk, it's just it always like would make me giggle. Okay, like there's this one where Edward and Bella, I think they're gonna tell Charlie that she's getting married or that the wedding is soon or something like that. And Edward's like, hey, Charlie. And then, no, I protested under my breath. What? Edward whispered back. Wait till he hangs his gun up. Because he had just gotten back from like his shift of being the sheriff, you know? So like, it's just like little things like that. Like, wait till he's put his gun away before you tell him this, you know? She never stopped making Bella be a little silly, little goofy, little funny. And I appreciated that because I needed it so much throughout this book. Yep, okay, here we go. Chapter 5, Isle Esme. I literally wrote, did I miss the sex scene? Because tell me why when this book came out, I was a kid. I was a young teenager, okay? And I remember the sex scenes in this book being so important to me because they were the first sex scenes I had ever read in a book that I ever understood what was going on, because my parents screened everything that I read and everything that I watched. So I was like not allowed to read anything that had anything remotely sexual in it. My mom would literally tape pages in the book over the words if there was anything sexual so that I would not be tempted to read it, because then she would know that I ripped it off. And so I literally had never read a sex scene before. And when Breaking Dawn came out, I remember getting it and knowing that there would be a sex scene in it and reading it fast because I wanted to read it before my mom read it, because she said she gave me the go ahead to read it when it came out because I had been waiting for it. I was very excited for it. And I don't know, I guess she just didn't think that there would be like sex in it or something. I honestly think she was really busy and she just like didn't want to be bothered to read another Twilight book for me. So like, fair enough, girl. And then I remember reading it really fast and I barely retained any of it. And then I remember she came to me later being like, Emma, did you read this book? And I was like, yeah, of course I did. She's like, I should not have let you read this book. I should have screened this book for you. So growing up, I always thought that there were like, maybe not explicit sex scenes, because I know that Stephenie Meyer is very religious, very Mormon, and that's just not something that she would put in her books. And I remember feeling like there were sex scenes in this book, and so to the point that my best friend and I, when we were young and we would talk about sexual things, like not between us, but talking about like, oh, like her sisters were having sex, or like in this movie they have sex, we would call it Breaking Dawn. Like we would say, she would say like, I read my sister's diary and the first page was just and I'd be like, what? Like it was Breaking Dawn? And she'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, like she had Breaking Dawn, like she did Breaking Dawn. You're like, that's what we would call sex, like that's how we would talk about it. Or like if we were talking about a movie and be like, is there any Breaking Dawn in it? Like so that we would know if like our parents would let us watch it and stuff like that. So I always assumed that this book had some kind of explicitity within the sexual scenes, okay? No. Literally, they get to the honeymoon, she skinny dips, and then there's no mention of him noticing that she's completely naked in the ocean, by the way. There's no, like, he doesn't growl at her, he doesn't, like, seem interested that she's completely naked for the first time in his eyes and everything. Nothing like that. So they're just talking in the water, and they're like, you know, no pressure, babe, no pressure, babe. You know, we'll go as slow as we need to or whatever. And then the next morning, she wakes up in the bed surrounded by feathers, and Edward is like hating himself because she has bruises all over her arm because he's a vampire, she's still a human, and like he still couldn't control himself well enough to not give her bruises. And so he's like so angry the next morning, and he destroyed the headboard, he destroyed all the pillows around them and all this stuff. But we as the reader didn't see any of that. We as the reader are in Bella's head being like, she wakes up super happy and super elated that they finally did it. And then we just have to figure out that they had sex, and that's where she got the bruises from. Like they don't even explicitly say that they had sex. You're just supposed to guesstimate that that's what happened. I can't believe that. I can believe it. Like I said, she's Mormon. She would not write a sex scene to save her life. And I get that she probably did not want to write a scene like that, and she is well within her right to. That doesn't mean that it hurt the book by not having a good sex scene in here or two, or just half of a sex scene, or even a makeout scene. This book was so long too, guys. Like my mind is swirling right now, so like if I'm not making sense, like please bear with me, because I literally just had to read these books. Like I just had to read the Twilight Saga, so like let's have some compassion for my speaking at the moment, for my abilities to convey how I'm feeling to you guys, okay? But yeah, literally there's no sex scene in this book. There's no description of sex, to the point where my next note was she's having a nightmare. The nightmare is that she's having sex with Edward, okay? She's having a sexy dream. And then she wakes up and he has like sworn off sex with her. He's like, we're not having sex until you're a vampire, because I can't control myself and I'm gonna bruise you up and all this stuff. And I'm a gentleman. And so she wakes up crying, and he's like, why are you crying, baby? And she's like, no, it was a good dream, you don't understand. Like I got to finally have what I've been wanting, and what you're keeping away from me and all this stuff. He makes her feel better, and they start making out, and then it goes, and we literally began where my dream had left off. I burst out laughing when I read that. Because she couldn't even give us a little something. Like, she couldn't give us a little taste of what it would be like to have sex with Edward. Okay, like, we're supposed to be in love with this man who, by the way, has barely given us anything this whole series, and we can't even like imagine what it would be like to do him. Like, we began where my dream had left off. Amazing. What's that like? Describe it to me, please. I'm literally begging you. Another note I made was, you know, super mad props to Bella because she got everything she wanted. She let Delusion win. She got a vampire to have sex with her. I mean, she manifested that shit. She came into Forks High School being like, fuck all y'all. I hate all y'all. I hate everything. And then she saw the most gorgeous man she's ever seen. And she's like, that's mine. That's my man. And she got him. She literally bagged him. Like, she literally agreed to marry him just so she could have sex with him. That was her end game. That was her end game, was having sex with Edward. She was willing to marry the man just to have... I love that. I love Delusion. I love when Delusion wins. Okay, so we're at the part where she finds out that she's pregnant. He calls Carlisle and he talks to Carlisle, and then she's like, what did he say? And he's like, he thinks you might be pregnant. And so after that, he goes on a rampage. Okay, he is angry, he is violent, he is yelling at people on the phone, he's throwing things across the room, he's throwing things into suitcases. Imagine being Bella. Okay, imagine finally getting to have sex with the vampire of your dreams, the man that you literally married just so you could bone. You get pregnant by him from the first time you have... First of all, nightmares. Getting pregnant upon the first time. Nightmares. You find out that you're pregnant with his spawn of vampire baby, okay? And he's literally radiating violent energy. He's making you sick to your stomach because of his manic concentration. He's making you uncomfortable. The quote that I highlighted here is, I would wait somewhere for his mood to pass. I couldn't talk to this icy, focused Edward who honestly frightened me a little. Yeah, he went in the garbage for me in this book, especially at this part, because like, I get that he's like very scared for her and he wants the best for her and he doesn't want to hurt her, and like he sees it as his fault that she's pregnant with his vampire baby, which like, yeah, you're correct, sir. Imagine being Bella. Like, how can he be so compassionate and loving towards her but then like not think about her feelings in this moment? Like, how can he just be so aggressive and angry and crazy and manic, and then like, but like she's right there, like she's the one experiencing this, dude. Like, you have no compassion for that. Like, you're just like, what? Like, it really rubbed me the wrong way. And he does this a lot throughout this series. I remember him doing it in the first book from time to time. Would get in these moods and just be angry and brooding, but like not in a hot way, like not in a way that was written well at all, except to be negative. Like, I got negative vibes from him every time he did this. Okay, one thing that was cool in this book, I love how she, as in Stephanie Meyer, had Rosalie have a big part in this book, because we hear Rosalie's story in Eclipse, how she was assaulted by multiple men and then left for dead. I mean, it's like, it's the most gruesome story in the whole series. And she tells this story after we get this inclination that Rosalie is just like a bitter, angry vampire who's jealous of Bella, who is also like the prettiest girl in the world. Like, she had a lot of description, she had a lot of screen time in the book, and it was all like kind of negative to an extent. But then in this book, she just totally, like, she's the first person that Bella calls. She's the person who Bella calls when she's like, do not let them kill this baby. I want to have this baby. Do not let them kill this baby. Do not let them take it out of me until it's time to come out. And then you have to take care of it in case I'm not here to take care of it. It's going to be your baby if I'm not here. I don't know. I thought that that was so cool. I thought that that was really cool of her to include Rosalie like that. Definitely gives her a lot more character. a lot more like bite to her. Basically, she just stepped up Rosalie's character for this book, and I don't know, I liked it a lot, especially from where she left off with her in Eclipse with like her whole backstory and everything. I'm glad that that wasn't just used as like shock factor, like, oh my gosh, feel sorry for this vampire, now move on with your day. It's like, feel sorry for this vampire, but now also like she has a lot going for her now. She has like a purpose. She has more to her vampire life that she like wasn't feeling before. And I don't know, I thought that that was like good roundabout writing that Stephanie did. That is all I have to say about the first part of the book, Bella's POV. So I have a couple notes from Jacob's POV. One thing that I loved in Jacob's POV was how Edward could communicate with them, or how we like saw Edward communicating with people that weren't Bella, because he can't read Bella's mind. So Jacob would like, it would be like writing, you know, like Stephanie, like it's writing in his head, it's his first person thoughts, and then Edward would talk, Edward would answer, Edward would smile or like joke at something that Jacob was thinking. And that was cool because we don't get that at all from Bella's perspective. Like maybe it's mentioned a few times of him like reacting to something that like one of his family members says, and Bella's like there, but she has no idea what was said because she's not in their head, only Edward is. But this time we're in Jacob's head, and so is Edward in Jacob's head. So it was cool literary devices there, like cool. It was different, and I like that she added Jacob's POV to this book. And I remember hating it the first time I read it because I was like, I do not care, I don't care, I'm here, like what about the baby, you know? I was like interested in so much more, like where are the sex scenes? I was definitely preoccupied with other things and I didn't want to hear Jacob's voice. But this time around, as an adult with a new brain, I definitely appreciated his POV. Okay, I remember talking about this. I think maybe it was Eclipse that I mentioned it in, but it goes for all the books. It definitely goes for this book. The italics need to go. She just needs to stop adding emphasis to every word and every sentence. It's boring. It's so annoying. She overdoes it. How about instead just write better sentences? How about that? It was happening so much in the wolves conversation because it's all in their heads. They were emphasizing every word and every sentence. I swear there was at least a word in every sentence that was italicized when the wolves were thinking in their minds. And it was too much. It was overkill. Be gone. My next note is, I absolutely love how everyone has a new nickname in this book. And by love, I mean hate. Because tell me why we've gone 3 books. We've gone 3 books and 1/3 of the 4th book without any of Edward's siblings ever having a nickname. Okay, their names are Emmett and Rosalie and Alice and Jasper. But then suddenly, in this book, we all have nicknames. We've got Rose, we've got M, we've got Jazz. Why are we introducing these new names to these characters that we've been reading about for 2,000 pages at this point? I want to know if this was something that she was like unwilling to give up. If this was something that like the editors were like, you know, Steph, like I get it, you want to introduce nicknames. I mean, I don't get it, but like it's what you're saying that you want to do. But like we can't do this right at the end. Like it's endgame. We have 500 pages of this whole series left and you want everyone to have new names to go by now? Like, and she was like, I'm not giving this up. This is something I'm putting my foot down and you are not taking this away from me. Like, I wonder if that was her thing, because like, I don't understand why else it got past the cutting board, because I know I would have cut that shit up. I would have said, no, their names are Rosalie and Emmett and Jasper, and those are their names, and those are the names that you will call them. Those are the names that we have been calling them. Okay, I think I'm back in Bella's POV. I am not for sure where this is at. But the fact that if the baby was a boy, she wanted to name it Edward Jacob is foul. That is foul that she would want to do that. Let me explain to who that's foul to. First of all, Edward, you're gonna name y'all's baby after the boy who tried to fight your husband for your hand, the boy who, let's not forget, forced himself onto your mouth and forced you to kiss him even though you tried to push him away and he kept sticking his tongue down your throat. You, like, in Edward's perspective, how do you think that would make him feel? It's foul to Jacob, because you're saying, you know, Jacob, I didn't choose you. I decided to go for the hot, immortal vampire, but I'm still gonna name my baby after you because like we had a fun time and you're like super hot and like I want my baby to be friends with you and I want to still be friends with you. Even though I didn't choose you, like I want you to move on, but like I still want you to be my best friend and I'm gonna name my baby after you. It's foul to the baby because the baby's name, because he's named after his daddy and he's also named after the boy that his mother almost left his daddy for. Like, oh my god, it's even foul for Bella because like she has, I mean, I guess she doesn't care. I guess she straight up does not care because she was the one willing to name the baby Edward Jacob. I'm getting so heated over this because it pisses me off. It makes me so like grossed out. Like, why? Like, imagine having a baby and naming it after your husband and your ex-boyfriend. Like literally imagine doing that. Foul. I love how after she gets turned into a vampire, the first thing that they do is kiss. And it's like he had never kissed me before, you know, like I could tell he was really holding back in the kiss. I was like really excited for that. I was really like hoping that it would be like a good kissing scene or like she would write like, you know, something romantic about it or just like more passion, you know, because we've gotten nothing from Edward. No passion, no charisma, no chemistry, no nothing. And I was hoping that once they were finally vampires and they could finally make out as strongly as they need to as vampires, we would get something. But no, it just says, it was like he never kissed me before. It was like our first kiss. And in truth, he never kissed me this way before. Another italics. It almost made me feel guilty. Surely I was in breach of the contract. I couldn't be allowed to have this too. Even though I didn't need oxygen, my breathing sped, raced as fast as it had when I was burning. This was a different kind of fire. That's all we get. So like, thanks for letting us imagine that the kiss would be better as vampires than as humans. Still no sex scene, still no vampire sex scene, by the way. Gonna go ahead and just tell you guys that there is no sex scene as vampires. It just kind of like drifts off into the wind and then the next chapter starts and we just like, oh, like, yeah, they had sex. Okay, let's move on with our life. But then we have like stinky little girls like me who want to read the sex scene between two vampires. Okay, sue me. I had it with this book at this point. I literally, can you even read that? Oh my god. So she's a vampire and vampires move really fast. So she is Steph, by the way. She is Stephanie. When I'm talking about I'm talking about Stephanie, okay? Miss Girl who wrote this damn book. She can't stop talking about how fast everything is for Bella, which is fine. I get it. It's new to her. Being fast as a vampire is new. But she described everything as like, it took me 1/8 of a second to make a decision. It took me 1/4 of a second to stand up. Within 1/16 of a second, I had already crossed the room, you know? And then we get to, I considered that for a 64th of a second. Stop it right now. That is so annoying. We can't have a sex scene, but we can talk about how fast everything is for her now. Picking up a cup, picking up her baby, walking across the floor, going to the bathroom, even though vampires don't go to the bathroom. But like, ooh, it was annoying. One line that I actually highlighted that like really stuck out to me was, maybe I would just love Edward more than anyone in the history of the world had ever loved anyone else. I could live with that. And that's so real to me, like to be in love with someone so much that you're like, screw it, I could just do this for the rest of my life and that would be so fine with me. I felt like that was very real. That was very real feelings, especially from an 18-year-old girl, okay? I mean, she literally married him to have sex with him. Like, that's how serious she was about this. Like, that's how in love with him she was. That's, as an as an 18-year-old girl, you do some of the dumbest stuff, and that is so real, and I love how real that is in the books, how real that's portrayed. And so like it makes sense why a lot of people, especially like adult men, hated these books and like talk trash about these books and talk trash about the young girls who would read these books when they came out, because they were just like, oh, like it's stupid, like she's in love with him and there's no other person for her. Like, no, like sometimes there's not. Like sometimes that is like the person that you're in love with, and like you can't help how you feel. And like women, I feel like just are so much more in tune with their emotions than men are. They're so much more acceptable of their emotions and know how to handle and deal with their emotions, push their emotions back, push their more emotions forward, say yes or no to their emotions. Whereas men like have a one-track mind, and it's like, I'm sad, I am hungry, I am happy. I highlighted the nicknames again. They said Jazz, M, Lettuce. Who's Jazz? Who's M? I don't know those characters. I know who Jasper is. Jasper with an S instead of Jazz. I know who Emmett is. I don't know who M is. I'm M. Okay, so we're getting to the end of the book, which is the worst ending in the history of book series. I mean, I can't say that for sure. I've not read every book series, but out of the ones I read, this one freaking sucked, okay? I mean, we all know how it ends. We all know how it goes. The Volturi show up, and the Cullens come prepared. They have a bunch of vampire friends from around the world because they know that the Volturi are coming to destroy Renesmee, because they think that she's like a new vampire, a baby vampire, and they're like, we can't have her here, she's too powerful. So the Cullens bring up all their friends and they're like, hey guys, come look at this baby and agree with us that she's also half human, because she was conceived and carried by a human. And then all the friends are like, yeah, we agree. And then the Volturi show up and they're like, she's evil. And then everyone's like, nope, she's half human. And the Volturi are like, huh, she is. Okay, boys, let's go. So yeah, it sucked. I highlighted this because I just thought it was really bad writing. They're talking about how Bella needed to become a vampire because the Volturi were going to like check up on her since she knew about the vampires and she was a human. They were like, okay, well, she has to become a vampire or she's gonna die. And the way that this is written just sucks. It goes, Caius, I think that's how you say his name. Caius was planning to send a hunting party to see if I was still human, against their edict. Because I knew about the secret vampire world, I either must join it or be silenced permanently. It's like, yeah, girl, like, we know that. But like, if you are writing that to remind the reader that that's like why the Volturi would have come if the baby wasn't here, I don't know. It's just, this book is like, it's like a jumble of ideas. It's like a jumble of mess. It's a jumble of a jungle that like hasn't been peer reviewed, that hasn't been edited. It's literally just like brain rot on the page. It was just written and then published. Okay, another thing that was really interesting is that at the end of the book, they decided to suddenly clarify that the werewolves are not werewolves, that they're shapeshifters. And that the fact that they turn into a wolf just happens to be like what their ancestors had turned into. And so then like as more vampires come onto the land, like more wolves show up. So they're shapeshifters who like unintentionally chose the shape of a wolf. And then they're asking like, well, are there real werewolves? And they're like, we don't know. So I'm thinking like, was she isn't Stephanie Meyer, of course, was she going to have more books in this series? Was she going to write like about werewolves, about shapeshifters, about like, I don't know, fairies, like something else? Like, did she have more plans and then just get lazy and only write The Host and Midnight Sun and then live with her riches and her royalties? Like, respect, like, get like no shame in that game. But like, why wouldn't she write more? I mean, maybe she felt like she couldn't write anymore. Wow, that was literally my last note. Did she plan more books? Okay guys, I've talked about this way too dang long. I am ready to watch these movies and upload this for you, so I'll see you later. I'm gonna go watch them now. Okay, I finished watching Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Part 2. I'm ready to talk, y'all. Let's get it right into it, okay? So first of all, right off the bat, okay, like Bella is getting ready to get married and she has a dream where her and Edward are at the wedding and they're standing on a bloody pile of all of their loved ones. And like, it's a dream, but the way that the film is laid out, it looks like this is actually her wedding, and then she's seeing all the people that she's gonna have to leave and betray to become a vampire. It's like full of symbolism. It's like really bloody. They both look really hot. Great scene, like great opening to this book, honestly. I was so taken aback with how much more I liked these movies than I liked Breaking Dawn as a book, okay? The movies just brought so much more oomph. I wasn't bored with anything. I wasn't annoyed with any characters. I wasn't like waiting for anything to end. Breaking Dawn Part 1, it's basically the wedding, it's the honeymoon, and it's the pregnancy. It ends with her giving birth and becoming a vampire. Like, it ends on her opening her eyes and she's got red eyes like a vampire who's hungry for human blood. I'm trying to think. I don't feel like there were many differences from the book to the movie. One thing that definitely stood out though is because we get Jacob's POV in the book, we get a whole like section where we find out that Jacob is like the alpha male. He is the leader of the pack. He's the leader of the shapeshifters, because they're not werewolves. Remember, at the very end of the book, at the final like 15 pages, we find out that they're not werewolves, they're shapeshifters. So get it fucking right, okay? Don't call him a wolf. Like, it's so random, so weird. But we find out that he's the alpha and that Sam actually has no say in like what the pack wants to do. Like, he can have his own pack and they can follow him and that's fine, but like as far as, I don't know, like nature and the law of the land and the way that the tribe like works is that Jacob is the real alpha. So there's a law on the land where the tribe of the werewolves, I mean shapeshifters, that they live on, there's like a rule that anyone who's a vampire cannot hunt humans on this land and they cannot turn anyone into a vampire on this land. And that's like been the rule since Sam has thought that he was the alpha and he was the leader, but since Jacob's now the leader and he's the alpha, Carlisle, or it might have been Edward, I can't remember which one in the book, one of them goes to him before Bella gives birth and they're like, hey, like, Jacob, since you're the real alpha, like, if this fetus is gonna kill her, can we get a pass on the punishment and the exile that will happen to our family if we change her into a vampire? Because, like, we need to change her into a vampire to save her life, you know? And Jacob is like, yes, that's fine. But in the movie, in the first one, it's Sam who says that it's fine. And I feel like it's Jacob who comes up to him and he's like, hey, well, once they turn her, you know, like, it's curtains, you know, we're gonna kill these vampires or kill these bloodsuckers and everything. But then Sam is like, I don't think so. Actually, I changed the rule. And it's just weird because later on, Jacob still has that revelation. He's like, I am the son of Ephraim and I am the real alpha. So like, I am the real tribe leader. But yet it's still Sam who makes that decision. Like, it was just weird. Like, why couldn't we have just started the movie off with Jacob being like, guess what? I'm the alpha. And then the Colons come to him and they're like, hey, is it okay if we change Bella? And then he gives that authorization to change Bella. Like, I feel like that would have been cooler for the story. I'm glad that's how it was in the book. In the movie, I was kind of like, okay, Sam, like, see you later. Like, we all know you mean nothing now. Both of the movies actually do a really good job of being cut and dry, just like the books. Like, they are, everything that happens in the book happens in the movie, except for, I mean, and you know what I'm about to talk about when I talk about the final one, but we'll get there. I felt like the flashback at the end of the first one was cool because it's like, she's dying and she's getting changed into a vampire. So I don't know if it's like she's seen the life flash before her eyes, or if she's just, it's like the director's way of like reminiscing about her human life. But that flashback is definitely really cool. Like, it's nice to go back to the first movie and like see things that happened and like see how her life has changed and everything. I thought that was cool. I have to talk about the second one. Like, I gotta get right into it because what the hell was up with that CGI baby? Like, it probably maybe costs less to just have a CGI Renesmee instead of casting 16 different actresses to like play her through every like year of her life because she grows up that fast. But yeah, that was horrendous. CGI Renesmee is almost as foul as Bella wanting to name the baby Edward Jacob if it was a boy. CGI baby is crazy. Like, I can't get behind it. I hate it. I hate CGI Renesmee so much. Okay, one weird thing that they changed in the movie. Okay, so in part 2, Irina, who is friends with the Colons, so let's talk about the movie first. So in the movie, she sees them playing with Renesmee and she's like, oh my god, like, they've created an immortal child. Is that what they call them? Immortal children, which are just like vampire babies that like just go crazy. And the Volturi do not fuck with that. They like immediately get rid of anything that will be a problem for the vampires. Like, if humans found out about immortal children, like, you know, that would be a problem for the vampires. People would start hunting vampires, killing vampires. So like that's the point of the Volturi, is they're the government that keeps the vampires safe. So she sees Renesmee, this friend of the Cullens, and her name's Irina, and she's like, oh my god, Volturi, guess what? Like, they've got an immortal child there. Like, we gotta get down there. We gotta stop them. You know, they're doing inappropriate things, basically. And so that's what causes the Volturi to come down at the end of Breaking Dawn. And in the movie, it's weird because they're giving a history of Irina to Bella, and they're like, oh, well, you see, Irina hits her a little close to home because back in the day when immortal children were a problem, her mother had an immortal child, and that child killed the whole village of humans, and then they burned her mother, like they ripped apart her mother and burned her mother and the brother. So like they're saying that's why Irina has like such trauma when it comes to this, like why she's so she felt the need to go to the Volturi immediately, be like, hey, they're breaking the rules, please stop them. But in the book, it's very specific that she only is going to the Volturi to tell on Bella and Edward and the Cullens about this child, this supposed immortal child, because she has vengeance against them because they killed Laurent. Laurent, he's in the first one with James and Victoria, and then he comes back in the second one by himself doing some work for Victoria. He sees Bella and he's like, oh, she's human, she smells so good, I'm gonna eat her. And then Jacob and his gang of shapeshifters come and they like destroy him. So because that had happened, Irina was like, oh hell no, like I have some vendetta against the Cullens. I found out about this immortal child. I'm gonna go straight to the Volturi because they need to suffer the way that I've suffered. But in the movie they make it like, oh well, see, her mom did it back in the day and she's like, anyone who does this needs to be punished, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so that was weird. Don't mind this. Okay, so the final thought that I wrote down for Breaking Dawn Part 2, the movie, was how much I loved the final, 5 minutes of the movie where Bella shows Edward what she's thinking. Like, she realizes that that's also one of her powers in the book, that she can give Edward some of her thoughts. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me either. And she shows him basically like their whole relationship, which is just a flashback of all the past 3-4 movies that we've just seen. And I was thinking about every Twilight fan in the theater watching this and them just crying and like loving it and like being so happy and fulfilled, but also sad that it's over. Like, I just love that. I love how humans can just come together for something like this, and you can have the same interests as so many people, and that something like watching the final movie in a series of books that you loved and read, I mean, how how great that feeling is, that sense of camaraderie, the sense of like togetherness. I mean, it's just like one of the best parts of life. And thinking about all those people being like so excited and happy and then crying at the end with the whole flashback. And then the way that they did the ending credits was so cool in that movie. Like, you can't say that they didn't. Like, do they do that in Harry Potter? I don't think so. I mean, I haven't watched Harry Potter in a long time, but like, I can't say that they do. But they gave like credits to everyone, even from the first film. Even so much that they credited both Victorias, which means that they credited both Rachel Lefebvre and Bryce Dallas Howard as Victoria. Like, they had both of them basically side by side, and that's so funny. I also finally decided to look it up. The reason why Rachel could not come back for Eclipse and Bryce Dallas Howard got casted as her role in Victoria was just due to scheduling conflicts. So I hope that suspense was really keeping you guys suspended. Okay, do I have anything else that I want to say about Breaking Dawn Part 2? Oh yeah, the final fight at the end. Honestly, like, good decision for a movie, but I have been rethinking my stance on how Twilight as a series has little plot, has little action, has little climax, has little conflict. I thought about it, okay? I thought about it. And I thought about other books that I read. I thought about other fantasy books that I read. I thought about other, let's not say fantasy. Let's say romance. Other romance books that I read. There really never is much of a conflict. In fact, the conflict usually comes at the end within the last 25 pages. It's something that one person gets mad at and they're like, I don't want to be with you anymore. And then the next page, the person comes back and they're like, I'm so sorry that this happened. It will never happen again and I will always protect you. And then they get back together and the book ends and she's pregnant in the end, okay? Like, that's typically how like a romance book will end. When it comes to romance books, typically the conflict has to do with the relationship. When you think about Twilight, there is hella conflict. There is the conflict of the fact that he is a human killing vampire and she is a human who wants to be with him. That's conflict. There's the conflict that she wants to sleep with him and he won't because he's Mormon. That's conflict. There is a lot of yearning in the books. At some point, Edward leaves her. He leaves her and she's stuck there yearning all by herself. She creates dangerous situations for herself so that she can hear his voice, which still is never explained in any way. Like, it's simply just, we heard his voice, she heard his voice. And then in the movies, he materializes there, but there's like never any explanation that he was like actually there in any way. Like, it literally was all in her mind. But regardless, like, there is plenty of conflict in this romance book. If you think about it as a fantasy book, okay, like, I see where you're coming from, because fantasy usually comes with, like, you know, families are rivaling, different kinds of blood are rivaling. I mean, there's just like lots at stake when if in a fantasy novel, like, usually there's some kind of hierarchy that needs to be toppled. So for a romance series that has 4 books in it, I would say that it's a pretty successful romance, okay? We have the longing, we have the yearning. She doesn't get everything she wants, which also brings me to my next point, which is that Bella is kind of the coolest character of all time, because she is introduced to a vampire. She moves to a new school, introduced to a vampire. He's like, girl, I'm literally a vampire. I'll literally eat you. And if I don't get to eat you, someone in my family's gonna eat you. So good luck, girl. Good luck, Charlie. And she is just so delusional. She's like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. She says, I don't care. I want to have sex with you so badly that I'm gonna literally marry you so that I can get what I want. Not only that, and I know that I've made sex like a big point of this, but not only to talk about sex. Let's talk about the power of being a vampire. She thought that her life was so mundane, so ordinary, so normal. She was boring, she was dull, ugly, I don't know. She just had all of these negative connotations about her life. She meets someone who can elevate it, and she's immediately like, what do I have to do? Literally, I will do it. What do I have to do? I'll jump off a cliff. I will storm the Volturi in Italy. I will marry you, in fact. Basically, Bella does so much in these books to not only gain power, but to prove that she's worthy of power. Bella proves time and time again that she is powerful as a human, but that's not good enough for her. She wants something more. She has been privy to a life that she never knew existed, and as soon as she found out it existed, she did everything she could to get it. As much as I want to like hate on this book for not having a good plot, for not having any action, at the end of the day, it's a romance book. At the end of the day, that's exactly what it is. It's a book about a girl who falls in love with a boy, and she does everything she can to be with him and stay with him. That's like the majority, like that's what a romance book is. You know, like you deal with the conflict of a relationship, and then you get to be with a boy in the end, or you get to be with a girl in the end. But here in these books, we have the conflict of the relationship. We have the conflict of Edward trying to leave Bella and trying to protect Bella and keep her safe. And Bella being like, no, bro, like, you're it. You're who I am staying with. You're who I love. And I'm never gonna leave your side, you know? And while I feel like his hunger for her might not be the best word, but his infatuation with her might not be as great as hers is with him. Another interesting take on the whole power dynamic thing is in the books, I remember there being a lot of instances where Edward is very aggressive, where he's like yelling, he's like stomping around the room, he's throwing things across the room, he's like making me as a reader uncomfortable. But then once Bella becomes a vampire, we see how quick her movements are. We see how easy it is for her to like put too much force on something and it seem aggressive and it seem angry when she's literally just being a vampire. So I like didn't think about that distinction while reading the book, but then once I saw the movies, it put a little bit more perspective on that, where it's just like, yes, he has anger issues, and yes, he's probably not the most soft boyfriend that you could ever have, but he is a vampire and he has a lot of power and he orders a lot of control around his life, and Bella comes in and interrupts it. It's just like there's a lot of dynamic here. There's a lot of contrast. There's a lot of comparing here. I think that Bella's delusion is so funny, but not just for like comedic purposes. I think it's funny to see how delusion can like get you to where you want to be. You know that saying where it's like fake it till you make it? Like that's delusion. Like that's delusion, like thinking that you can make it when you like have no experience, you are scared, you have nothing to like fall back on or anything, like you're just faking it, hoping to make it. That's delusion, and that's what she does, and I think that she does a good job of it. Do I think that Stephenie Meyer is a good writer? No. Do I particularly enjoy her and her values? No. Do I like these movies? Yes, I do like these movies, especially the first one. Nothing more classic than that first Twilight movie. Catherine Hardwicke did so good on that movie, and it would have been amazing to see her take on the final 4 movies or 3 movies that were left. But I get it, like they were a huge blockbuster sensation at that point, and like she is a very good indie director. I feel like she would have been way out of her depth with like even like handling like the final Breaking Dawn movie, you know? I mean, with what studios were wanting and what they would have, like obviously what they wanted with that movie by adding in a final fight scene that is not in the book whatsoever. Oh yeah, did I mention that? There's a final fight scene in the movie between the Volturi and the Cullens and their friends and the wolves, and a lot of people die in it, but it's just a fake, it's just a joke, it's just a fake joke. It's Alice showing the main vampire of the Volturi, Aro, I think is his name, like what will happen if we fight. She's like, girl, all right, here's what's gonna happen. And he's like, oh, I'm so scared, don't kill me. So then they decide not to fight, which is what happens in the book, but it's obviously from Bella's perspective, so we don't see the fight that Alice is foreseeing in her head that she's giving to Aro. But also the main point of the whole fight and everything was that Renesmee is not an immortal child, that she is an anomaly basically, but that there are other half vampire, half human children like her out there, and they bring one from Brazil to like, you know, prove that point. And then the Volturi is just like, okay, like we get it, but like don't forget about us, like we're still the baddies and we'll still kill you if you step out of line. So it's weird because with the Volturi still being the bad guys that they are, and I don't mean to say bad guys, like I don't believe that they're bad guys, because I do believe that they're bad guys. It's just like it's hard to like differentiate, because like they are protecting the vampires from like good reason. The Volturi are like, we'll come back if anything bad happens, and they like start to go off to like get these other vampires who like were out of line during the whole conversation. Basically like they're gonna probably kill them. At the end of the movie they kind of do the same thing, where like the vampires from Russia who came up, who were like, oh yeah, let's get the Volturi, we hate those guys, they're like angry that the fight didn't happen and that the Volturi weren't taken down. There's like a lot of contention with vampires and the Volturi. And then also in the book mentioning that there are werewolves out there, but Jacob and his tribe are not werewolves, they're shapeshifters. There's like so much added information at the end of the books and the movies where I feel like it's evident that maybe she was going to write another series, or she was going to do another series, but maybe she was like, screw it, these royalties rock, and I'm not adding anything else because I literally don't have to work for a day in my life for the rest of my life, which, fair girl, you deserve it. You did a great job with being popular, and I like definitely, you know, tip my hat to that. Or she just like couldn't write it. Like she sat down to write another series because she ended the first series with all this open-endedness in this whole world, you know, that she built of vampires and werewolves and shapeshifters and everything. She sat down to write it and then realized that she can't write. So that's like disappointing. So I feel like the main problem I have with the series is with Stephenie Meyer, and it's just because of her person and her writing. The characters are fine, the story is fine. Now that I've come to grips with the fact that I was reading a romance book and that I shouldn't have been expecting some amazing final fight, some amazing final climax, because in romance the stakes are never that high. It's a romance book. It's about longing, it's about yearning, it's about finally getting the person that you have been chasing after all this time. And then you add in the fact that Bella just wanted to be with Edward so bad, that she wanted the power of being a vampire, that she did not want to live her dull, mundane life anymore. I mean, who doesn't feel like that? You know, who doesn't want more power in their life? And she got it. She did the damn thing. Like, she really did that. She really married a vampire. Good for her. And then she had a baby. And then she had a baby with him that she wanted. So like, congrats, congrats, girly, congrats. Honestly, I had a fun time doing this. I had a great time reading the books. I had a fun time rewatching the movies. Revisiting things that I liked when I was a teenager is definitely really fun. I would love to do more series like this, so like look out for it. Maybe I'll let you guys know what my next one's gonna be. I kind of already have it picked out. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's not too long. I'm gonna go edit it right now. But I had such a fun time, and I will see you guys in my next one. Please feel free to subscribe below and follow me on all my social media in the drop down box below. Yeah, okay, thanks so much. Love you guys.